Yes, guys, welcome back to another episode of the Daily Dose podcast. Today, we have a very special guest in that he's a battle rapper that also runs one of the biggest leagues in Europe as a whole. We've got one of the owners of Don't Let the Label Label You, based in Germany, JollyJay. How's it going, man?
Safe, man. Good to be here, bro.
No, thank you very much for taking the time to come on, man. I appreciate it, and you know, I'm a big fan of yourself as well. But in terms of you, like, I know you're originally from the UK, but you've been out in Germany a long time. How long have you been living over there now?
Well, I'm half German, half English. My mom's German, so I grew up, even living in the UK, I grew up kind of bilingual and with a lot of connection to Germany. And the first time I moved over here was actually not to Berlin, it was to Munich. My parents got divorced and shit, and they split up, and I went with my mum. That was when I was about 11 or something. Then went back to England, to Brighton for a while, and then went to Berlin. So I've been hopping back and forth really since a kid. But I've lived here fully in Berlin since 2009. So yeah, about
Nice. No, that's cool, man. I've spent a bit of time in Germany as well, and if there's two places that I'd choose to live, they'd be Berlin and Munich. So that's pretty cool. But
very different.
nice, man. But say again, sorry.
Very, very different places, Berlin and Munich. To be honest, I was never such a big fan of Munich. Now that I don't live there, I can appreciate it, visiting it. It's a nice town, but it's not really the place to live when you're like a young hip hop artist. There's not much going on there.
No, I can appreciate that. That's fair enough. But Berlin is, I mean, it must be incredible. Like, there's so much available to you in that sense. But what was it that kind of got you into battle rap then?
I was into hip hop quite early. My stepsister, she's a singer. She's called Biker. And she was always into a lot of hip hop in the early 90s and stuff, and showed me that stuff. And so as a young teenager, I started writing rhymes a little bit. And during school, I remember being on like these different types of forums and stuff. Every now and then, you'd send in your tracks, and there would be like audio battle tournaments where you kind of record diss tracks, send them in, and can win a prize. And I did that a few times. I had a few friends who were into it. I remember the first live battle I saw was actually in Munich, and these two Germans battling each other live. And I was still a kid, and I thought it was really cool. Also, my cousin in London was into battle rap way, way back in the 90s. He battled Skinny Man and stuff in a place called Oba, all freestyle, of course. So I grew up kind of surrounded by hip hop and battle rap, and I was always very excited by it. And then I think when YouTube bounced out and there was a lot of jump off battles going online, I followed all that. And then the grind time scene came, I followed that, and yeah, one thing led to the other. And then I kind of just thought I might as well join. I think my very first live written battle event that I joined was the one I battled at as well. It was Blood in the Water for Don't Flop.
Crazy. So you've been a fan for a very long time, kind of thing. Then that's the grind time era was a bit kind of before my time, to be honest. I discovered battle rap when I was in like my second last year of high school, and the first battle I saw was O'Shea versus Lego, so kind of around the time that Don't Flop started, I guess. But your first battle wasn't too far after that, and had you? I mean, you're bilingual in that sense, but what would you say you prefer? Would you prefer to do a battle in English or a battle in German?
Definitely English. I mean, I've battled 90% English so far. I mean, the last two battles I did, the last battle I did was disaster, but the two battles before then were bilingual battles. So my opponents are bilingual as well, and we agreed to do one round in English, one round in German, and one round mixed. And those two battles are the only German rounds I ever spit. So I'm definitely more comfortable in English. But I have to say, now that I've been surrounded by German battle rap so much, and obviously it's part of my job and my life, I'm always more and more motivated to write in German, and it's kind of it's kind of an extra challenge and fun and inspiring as well to do. but I'd say I'm still a little bit better in English.
Right. Okay. Nice, man. But yeah, so don't let the label you really surprised me. I mean, I mentioned this to you the other day. So I lived in Germany for a while, and when I first moved there, I went to visit a school friend he's from Berlin, so I went to visit him for a week or so. And we ended up just coming. He knew that I was into kind of British battle rap anyway, and we ended up coming to one of the events, and I wasn't expecting anywhere near as much as I got. Like the scene there is huge, and the crowd was bigger than most of the UK crowds that I'd ever seen at that point as well. Like,
what event was it again? The first one you came to? Do you remember?
So the first one I came to, it was an all German event. I couldn't speak any German at this point. I'd literally lived there for about 3 weeks.
Okay.
I could say hello and order a couple of beers, and that was about it. But it's I can't remember the event name. I remember it was around 2014, and there was a guy called Davy Jones on the card.
Mhm. Yeah.
Brian Damage, I believe, was on the card as well.
Okay, so it was an early Berlin event with Brian and Davey. Yeah, I can't put my head around. There's been too many events. But did you say you went to the co-event with Don't Flop as well?
Yes, yeah, I went to that event too, which was that was amazing for me. Like, obviously, before I lived in Germany, I lived in Sweden for a while as well. So I'd been a huge fan of battle rap for a long time, but only ever been to 2 events previously. So getting to see Don't Flop, you know, whilst living in Germany was a pretty big deal for me at the time, and that event was really good, man. I mean, the like, how did that come about? Like, you merging with Don't Flop to do an event, was that kind of your idea, or was that Don't Flop's idea?
I can't even exactly remember, but I think it might have been who approached me and just said, "Hey, we want to come to Berlin. Should we do a co-event?" And I thought, yeah, why not? I mean, this was still quite early. I would have thought that was the first event you came to, because that was quite an early event. So you must have been at one of the really early ones if you came to something beforehand. But yeah, I remember just saying, "Hey, he wants to come to Berlin. Let's hook up." And I don't know, I can't even remember what the deal was exactly, but we were obviously keen on it because we were still quite new. Also, I obviously came from the British scene, so I was really keen on getting everyone over and trying to kind of unite the German and British scene a little bit, which is difficult because a lot of the German fans don't speak English. So I've realised more and more now that it's quite difficult to really get the UK scene popping here in Germany, just because a lot of fans don't understand it. But it did help a little bit. Like, I think British battle rap was far ahead in terms of, like, you know, technical skill, and the whole level was much further than in Germany, especially at that time, because German written battle rap was still quite new. So the point was also to just show people what English battle rappers are capable of, and, you know, showing the crowd and the MCs different types of styles and stuff. And we've maintained that all along. Like, even now, we still occasionally get an international battle in, not because it necessarily sells much pay-per-view or anything, but just because it's cool. It's like educational for the fans, basically.
Yeah, sure. And I mean, despite the fact that, you know, the majority of the fans maybe aren't particularly strong with their English, the event was well, and the English battles were received really well. Like, it wasn't.
Yeah. I remember being the last event we did during the night. Because back in the day when we started, until that event, we always put on events from like 8 in the evening till, they'd stretch sometimes to like 6 in the morning. It would be ridiculous. And it would just kill the last battles of the night. And I remember I was one of the last battles that night against Innuendo, and that's one of the battles I just can't watch back. I find it so hard to watch because, I mean, can't blame the crowd. They're trying to listen and they're trying to react, but everyone's just so dead and drained out from standing around. And it was probably like 3:30 in the morning, and we battled.
Yeah.
And I just realised it makes no sense to have battle events on this late. And after that event, we changed it and we started doing daytime events.
No, it definitely makes sense. It's the only event that I've ever been to that's kind of gone past, say, 11 p.m. I think. So
yeah,
it was, cool experience. I really enjoyed it, and Berlin was great at that point because obviously the smoking ban still hadn't come in and stuff, so that you didn't have to miss anything just to go for a smoke break and things like that. It was perfect. But I also came to an event that you guys did in Paderborn literally just before I left Germany, so it would have been 2016 sometime.
Yeah, I remember that event because we've only been in Paderborn once. We had Hansen against T-Way there and stuff. Yeah, I remember that event clearly.
To be honest, one of my biggest regrets about living, my only regret from Germany is not picking up more of the language. I worked for like the British military, I guess it was, as like a function manager on one of the British Army bases. And I didn't really get a massive opportunity to speak German enough to kind of learn to speak it fluently. And I really regret not making more of an effort to as well. But the Paderborn event it was good fun, actually. It was living in Paderborn. I was there for about 2 years. There was no hip hop gigs or anything along those lines. If you wanted to see something, you'd have to travel to like Dortmund or Hanover or Hamburg and places like that. But you guys coming over was like really cool and like a big deal at the time. So I remember, obviously my German's not great. I remember being fairly impressed with a guy called Chris Kotzen. Is that right?
Yeah. He had a great battle that night. Yeah.
Is he still battling then?
Yeah, he's still active. He's still one of the main guys, top tier guys. If he actually would have had a on-beat title match in about a week, but that had to get cancelled because of Corona, of course. But he's super active. And mate, don't beat yourself up about not learning German in those few months. Like my dad's lived here for 20 years and he still doesn't speak the language. So,
really?
It's not in English blood to learn languages. The only reason I speak German is because I grew up with it. Like I'm useless learning languages. It's just, I don't know why we're useless at it. It's British people that just can't learn another language. Just rubbish.
You know what? I kind of tried for a while because I had like a German girlfriend and stuff for a very brief period, and I was trying to get her to help me with it, but I lived in Sweden for a couple of years beforehand and picked up Swedish really quickly. Moved to Germany and really struggled with the language. I don't know why.
It's a tough language, I think. It's quite hard.
Yeah, but I love Germany as a whole, man. It was an incredible couple of years. I was there for about 2.5 years in total and really enjoyed it. But in terms of yourself then, so the next question was the first event you attended as, I was going to say as a fan, but you said that was the first event you battled at, so Blood in the Water, is that correct?
Yeah, I was really lucky back then. Like back then the scene was still kind of small in England, so when I told her, look, I'm flying over from Germany, and back then, we wouldn't get paid anything, pay your own flight and everything. So I said, listen, if I'm flying over, I at least want it to be a good event. And then my first 3 battles were at Blood in the Water 2, Blood in the Water 3, Blood in the Water 4. So the first 3 battles I ever attended and never did, I got to see Immaculate, Disaster, Solkan, Caustic, Real Deal. They all battled at these events. So that was pretty sick. If you compare it to nowadays, when someone wants to try out, they have to, climb the ladder for ages. Back then it wasn't like that. Yeah,
no, of course. It's the Blood in the Water events were, I never made it to any of them, unfortunately, but there's some of my favourite events. And your first battle was against Nishi then, is that correct?
Yeah, Blood in the Water 2, I think, Nishi, yeah.
Amazing. And what an opponent to try out against as well.
Yeah, it was really good. It was his tryout as well. We both had our tryout battle. And I think we both had a few tracks online, so I was like, okay, cool, I'll put you guys together because you both have some music popping, and you guys can, focus on that and try and diss each other off each other's music. And I was really, really happy to get him as an opponent, especially now, because he was like ahead of his time in the sense of being more of a street rapper and maybe not being as punchline based, but rapping really well. And I think nowadays his style would be more appreciated than it was back then. But back then it was really, really good for me because I had punchlines en masse, and I was able to really, kind of destroy him for that time.
Yeah, no, and I definitely agree. I think if Nishi was to battle nowadays, I think he'd be really popular, but
yeah.
He's definitely someone I'd like to see come back. And so you've been living in Germany the whole time that you've been battling then. Is it kind of like, will you try and arrange a battle in the UK when you're, say, back to visit family and stuff, or is it literally just fly in for a quick visit, just to battle?
Combine it. I mean, I had one battle in Leeds, I think it was, and that was literally just flying up on my onesies, doing the battle, going back. But apart from that, all my battles were in London for that specific reason, so I could, combine it with visiting friends and family and stuff. I'd always have this place to stay there as well, and I mean, I'm in London at least twice a year or so I'd always try and
Nice. Okay, makes sense. And what would you say is your personal favourite battle that you've been involved in so far?
I've been involved in. It's hard to say, man. Like, of course, the last battle against Disaster was a big one just because of the opponent. But there was a lot of things that made that battle a bit disappointing, especially in his performance and stuff. So I wouldn't say it was my favourite.
Sure.
My favourite one was probably against Brian Damage, the bilingual one. I mean, it's the one that got the most views, the most recognition. Probably one of my strongest appearances. Definitely my strongest opponent. I'd probably say that. The other one I always liked a lot from way back in the day was the one against D-Mites, the American dude, which I always thought got slept on a lot. It's probably my least viewed battle, but at the time it was definitely my favorite.
I have seen that battle. I'm sure he's the kind of geeky looking guy that.
Yeah, exactly. Like a military guy from America, and always like dressed in a bow tie and shit.
Yes, yeah. I've never seen him since, to be honest. But no. Yeah, that is a good battle.
Yeah, he was at like World Domination just after my battle, and then that was it. Like, you never really saw him again.
Yeah. Sure, but one of the segments of this show that I'm looking to do is a weekly show where we kind of promote underviewed battles and try and get them a bit more shine, kind of thing. So it's I like getting suggestions from people when I interview them, just because it makes things a bit easier. But we'll definitely throw that one amongst the mix, man. But going back to the Disaster battle, I mean, I remember being quite excited for that when it was announced. And Disaster, he's battled in Germany before, but it wasn't for your league. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. He battled a few times, 3 times actually, or twice, and once in Switzerland.
Oh, okay. So it's only I think the guy was called Cynic.
Yeah, that's the one he did before he did mine. So that's his latest one, I think.
And it was horrendous.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I was expecting Diz to kind of turn up on his A game and really show out, and yeah, it was just another disappointing performance. But to be honest, I think it might be the strongest performance that I've seen from you. I thought you were really good in that battle.
Thanks, man. I'd say content-wise, I'd say that I'd agree. It's probably my best performance. Performance-wise, just the way I delivered it and stuff, I had a lot of slip-ups, a lot of like uncertainties. Just wasn't really in my zone. There's so many things that kind of didn't go as planned. Not just him and his rounds, but he kind of took away a lot of the atmosphere as well. And few things, I don't know. It's one of those battles that I'm really happy with the content, but I just wish I didn't perform it the way I did. Like, there's a lot of things that just didn't go right. I still think that that's probably the most underviewed battle that I've done though, because obviously since Disaster kind of got bodied in it, which is not like me showing off, it's mainly him bodying himself, but because it was such a bad performance from his side, he obviously has kind of kept it under wraps and hasn't posted it or promoted it. So it's been getting very, very little views. Things like 80,000, which is nothing for a Disaster battle.
No, sure. And it's kind of just the, you know, your subscribers that would have seen the battle, I guess. But it's, yeah, on your part, I think it's a really fucking strong showing, man. And
thanks, man.
It's a shame that he didn't turn up with his A game, because it would have made for a classic battle as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so too. It is a shame. And I think he would have, I mean, I don't think it was his plan to come there and not try. I mean, he did like have Instagram posts saying, yeah, I'm going to really fucking beat JollyJay. He's a good rapper. I'm going to try my best now and stuff. Like, unfortunately, he got quite ill before the battle. So I think that messed up with his rehearsal a little bit. And I think it was this thing that if he would have really not cared and treated it like his other German battles, he could have freestyled and gotten away with it. Like, it wouldn't have been great, but at least he wouldn't have choked and it would have just looked more casual. And I think a lot of German fans who don't really listen to the lyrics would have still thought it would have been a great show, you know. But because because I guess he was trying a little bit harder than usual compared to his other German battles, he did have a lyric, you know, he had it all written down, and he, instead of saying fuck it, I'm just going to freestyle, he was really, really intent on trying to remember those lyrics, and that's what fucked him up. So he was trying, he was underprepared. Rather than in his other battles, he wasn't really trying and didn't prepare, and you know, it came off better than this one.
Yeah, I agree, but yeah, it's a difficult one to watch on his part as well, because like you said, it does drain a lot of the atmosphere out the room as well. But you can tell that on your end, as you said, you get a lot of fans at your events that can't really speak much English, but you can tell that people just want to get behind you in that battle, and people are really supporting you, and it's like, especially your first round, it's really fun to watch. It looked like a great atmosphere at the event.
Thanks, man. Yeah, cheers. Good to see you.
Yeah, looks great, man. But what would you say is your least favourite battle then?
Definitely the innuendo one. Don't you have to think about that. That's by far my worst battle. Actually, the one you were there live for the one. Because of the reasons I mentioned. First of all, like, it was just really, really tough performing at 3:30 or 4 a.m. in front of a stoned, dead crowd, being really stoned and tired myself. Also, it was the very first time I battled at an event that I put on. So I don't know, I just wasn't in the battle zone at all. I was all stressed out. And also, I just, looking back at it, it's just shit. Like, I still reckon I won. I think the second round was quite good against Innuendo. And actually, he even wrote me a PM 2 years later saying, yo, that second round you wrote against me, that's really changed my life, man. Because I kind of went in on him a bit more personally and said, like, how he's changed his character and he's turned into a cokehead, and how he was kind of more authentic and likable when he was just a stoner. And he actually said, yeah, that made him stop doing coke, and he's back on his weed and he's changed his whole character. And so that round actually got to him. So that made me like the battle a little bit more. But it's one of those, probably the only battle I've ever done that I literally can't watch from beginning to end. I just haven't once since it's been released watched it through, just because there's so many shit bars in there and stuff. I don't know what it is, and I don't have excuses. I think one of the main reasons, though, is because it was the first time I battled in front of a German crowd in English. I always thought, okay, I have to kind of appeal to the Germans. So every time you write a bar, you think, okay, that's a good bar, but will the Germans get it? Probably not. So you simplify it more and more, and then you simplified the bar so that it's actually kind of a bad bar for a native speaker. You know, so you're always trying to find that balance between what's simple enough for the Germans to get, but not too simple for the English people. And you're thinking too much about what other people will think about your bars rather than what you think about them. And that's, I think, why I think the innuendo battle was kind of poor on my half. And I learned a lot from that match.
No, it makes a lot of sense. And, you know, it's a testament to yourself as well, in the sense that it's definitely not a a bad battle, and it's not a bad performance either. So for that to be your least favourite, you know, it shows the quality that you bring with your performances. But yeah, I mean, I definitely had you winning. I think so. That was the first time I've seen you battle. I've been in the room for your battles twice, so I saw you battle battle Innuendo, and then I saw you battle Tongue Twister.
In Amsterdam.
Yeah.
Ah, you were there for that. Cool.
Yeah. Because of living in Paderborn, I was kind of halfway between Berlin and Amsterdam, so both were really accessible and like quite cheap to get to. So I used to go to both places pretty regularly, but I think the Tongue Twister battle was better overall than the Innuendo battle, because I don't think Innuendo's very good at all in the battle that you guys had, but I think your material for Innuendo was a lot better personally.
Yeah, I think it was material-wise. Yeah, I think he had. I think Innuendo's a really likable kind of battler. He's kind of funny. I like his accent. He has funny bars and stuff, but it didn't really work for a German crowd whatsoever.
No.
And I mean, it's hard enough for them to understand English, let alone his accent. And then he had a lot of Nazi bars and stuff like that that kind of didn't really pop in a German crowd. But yeah, I mean, it's just a battle. I can't even say that much about it because I haven't watched it in years, and probably I don't plan on rewatching it anytime soon.
No, that's fair enough, man. But I mean, what would you, considering, you know, you've had to travel back to the UK for events and things like that, like, what's the longest amount of time you've ever spent traveling to an event? Would that be for an event over here, or for one of the events that you've done in Germany that are quite far from Berlin?
Yeah, I mean, distance-wise, probably all the English ones. And I remember it being quite stressful, the Leeds battle, just because I don't know anyone down there. And then Ryan from Hip Hop Kings, don't know if you know him. Hip Hop Kings, like one of the websites that we did the audio battles on back in the day. He lives in Leeds.
I'm aware of it, but I was never, like, it was kind of before my time.
Yeah, well, the owner of that, I kind of knew him, and he offered his couch. So I got to crash there for a night, and I just remember, I can't remember exactly what it was, but I missed my flight back. I had to get up like at 5 a.m. to catch this flight. And then I was in Leeds, and the flight was from Liverpool, I think. But I went to Manchester instead, because my flight to Leeds was to Manchester. And then I took a bus to Leeds, and then going back for some reason was from Liverpool. So I got up fucking early, was at this airport, and then I realized, oh fuck, I'm at the wrong airport in the wrong city. And then I had to catch a bus back, and I just remember it being like a 12-hour ordeal, and had to then pay another flight and shit. And it's just like, I don't know, it was a fucking disaster. But apart from that, like all the English flights were fine, because it was just going to London, which is a cheap flight. It's like not even 2 hours. That was all fine. Obviously, when we have events here, Germany's a huge country. It's a lot bigger than the UK, and we can never fly. We have to always go by car. So that's always a bit stressful. I mean, when we have daytime events on a Saturday, sometimes we leave Saturday, which means we have to leave at like 6 a.m, get there at like 2 or 3, build everything up and start an event, which goes till midnight. So that's always quite long, but we're used to it. We're doing it every 2 weeks. The longest drive's probably from here to Vienna in Austria, which is about a 9-hour drive or something.
Right, okay. So Vienna's a longer drive from Berlin than Munich is then?
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
Okay, I didn't expect that actually, but nice. But have you done many events outside of Germany then? I know you've done Austria, but is there anywhere else you've been?
I've done a few in Vienna and Austria. That's it so far. We're planning to do one. Well, we were planning on doing one in Switzerland, because we've got quite a big following in Switzerland. But seeing as our league is German, it makes no sense doing it anywhere else. It has to be a German-speaking country.
Yeah, of course.
There was a point where we were thinking about putting on a UK event, especially when Don't Flop kind of stopped, and we were doing quite a few UK battles in Berlin. We thought, might as well just, you know, instead of flying lots of UK rappers over here, might as well just fly ourselves down there and put on an event there. And we were considering doing that. I even put up a post in the UK Battle Forum asking if people would be interested, and got decent feedback, and I reckon we could do that. But then Premier Battles popped up, and a bunch of other leagues popped up, and I just realised that it's probably not worth it. Like, there's enough leagues in England at the moment. It's not really the problem.
Yeah, if I'm honest, I do agree. Like, I'd love to have seen an event from you guys, don't get me wrong, but I don't think that was the time to do it, in the sense that I think that one of the issues with the UK scene at the moment is how many leagues it has anyway. Like, I think, you know, I think you guys are so successful because you're the league, you're the big league in Germany, you know, and like, back when Don't Flop was the same over here, they were successful for that reason, and I think we need to try and get back to that as a scene first. But
I agree. I think it's not concentrated enough in England at the moment. It's too spread out and too many small leagues. I think Shotty's league or Premier Battles is doing well, and I think they're going the right way. And Don't Flop's kind of trying to have a comeback now. So I reckon if those two things work out, and Premier Battles is really popping and Don't Flop's really popping, that'll be really good for UK battle rap. But I agree, when there's too many leagues going on, it makes it hard for one of them to really progress and get big, you know. It's all kind of spread. And then there's rivalry between leagues, which means that one MC won't battle on both, and it just kind of spreads everything out, which isn't very helpful.
No, and I think the reason that Premier Battles is the league that's kind of stood out is because they came with a different concept. It wasn't just exactly like Don't Flop, you turn up, you watch 6 or 7 battles, you go home kind of thing. There was a different concept behind it all, and whereas with all the other leagues that popped up, they were Don't Flop, if that makes sense. So the scene, it's getting better. It's getting a lot better over here, but the last couple of years it's been a bit strange. So hopefully it kind of gets a bit closer to normality soon. But what would you say are the top 3 bars that you've had said against you? Like, have you ever had anything where, you know, someone spat something to you and you're there like, Jesus, that's took me by surprise kind of thing?
Yeah, of course. There've been lots of good stuff said against me, but right off the top of my head, it's quite tough to like quote shit. I remember Yunnan, I can't remember if it was particular bars, but Yunnan, his energy, that blew me away. Like, I've always seen Yunnan perform live, but when you're standing in front of him, it's a whole different thing. I can't remember, but some of the bars he delivered them so well as well. It was dope. But the best moment I had spat against me was Brian Damage. Again, it's a German moment, but what made the Brian battle so interesting is that we're kind of close friends. We know each other very, very well, so it got very personal. We had a lot of stuff to say to each other. And there was one bit where he kind of it's really, really hard to translate because there's so many different word plays in it and different like double meaning. But he basically had this whole scheme where he was talking about the rivalry league at the time, a league that doesn't exist anymore. It's called Rap am Mittwoch, and we were didn't have the very, very best relationship, and it was kind of a rivalry, and he was kind of describing them the whole time in this part. It's like a whole scheme, but everything he said would also somehow fit to us with a double meaning. So right at the end, you'd get like the whole crowd need me to agree to what he's saying, but then flip it and then make me realize that the whole time he's talking about me and not this other league. So yeah, if that makes sense, it was fucking genius, and definitely the best thing that ever, because it made me look like a real fool, because I was like shaking my head, nodding my head, like agreeing to everything he's saying, and then bang, he hits me in the face with it. And I'm just agreeing with all his disses applying to me. So it was really, really clever, but hard to translate.
Nice, yeah. And I mean, Brian Damage was on obviously the Don't Flop merger card as well, where he was really good at battling in English as well. Like, I think he was probably the standout performance of the day from the German battlers.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, he was really good against Tongue Twister as well.
Yeah, and you know, there was a couple of guys that I was impressed with. Personally, I thought all the German battlers were a bit better than the English guy that battled Ogmios. I thought Maniac. It was Maniac that battled Impact. Is that right?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, and Jean Gaufrey was against Ogmios. He's not German,
Right.
just an old friend from London.
Right. Okay. Yeah. He also battled Pedro as well, didn't he? Where
and Mickey
Pedro. Okay, I've not seen the Mickey battle actually. I'll need to check that out. But Maniac, am I right in saying he doesn't battle in German?
Yeah, he doesn't rap in German really. He's more known for his music. He makes quite sick music, and it's all English. Or every now and then he'll put something out in Bavarian. Like he's a weird one. He's like I think he's half German, half American, but he always lived in Bavaria, like in the sticks of Bavaria, I think. So he's got a very, very thick Bavarian accent, which is quite hilarious. When you see him and you hear him rap, he sounds like this American dude, and then all of a sudden he'll say something with this really, really thick Bavarian accent. So that's what he's known for. Now and then he'll spit some Bavarian bars.
Nice, but yeah, I mean, in terms of like battles that you've put on that are bilingual, then is there any that you'd recommend to like English speaking viewers to watch? Because I imagine a lot of them get slept on over here.
Yeah, we haven't had that many, I have to say. Like we put on one that got slept on a lot was Raptor against Yunnan. Obviously, there's been a rematch now, a big one on Premier Battles. But anyone who missed the first one, and they speak about the first one a little bit in the rematch, you should check that out on Don't Let the Label Label You. That was about a year ago, or about maybe 2 years ago.
Yeah.
That was the only time we really booked two UK people to battle each other, which I really wanted to do because I didn't always fancy it being a UK guy against a German dude in a second language. But that's really it, really. Apart from that, it's just me who battled English people every now and then those Don't Flop events. Oh, we had Moss Prov come over as well. Moss Prov and Nils Muskills came over a few times.
Nice.
And Milo Shuffle T against Nils and Henry Bowers. That was probably the biggest match we put on.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I love that battle. But the Raptor and Yunnan battle, I mean, I liked what you said earlier in terms of your innuendo battle, where you were trying to make things as simple and accessible as possible to the German crowd. And I think I remember watching the Yunnan Raptor battle and thinking, getting a bit annoyed at the fact that Raptor wasn't happy when the crowd weren't reacting to his stuff. But I think he needs to understand that he's rapping at someone in another language. Like he definitely didn't try and simplify anything at all. He came with like a regular Raptor style performance, and I think that affected the battle slightly because he was pausing quite often where he was like expecting reaction and stuff. But
it's interesting. It's like interesting in general. It's like every time you battle, I think it's so important for battlers to realize that you have to know your crowd, and it's always different. And I think it's always important to semi-adapt your lyrics and your performance to the crowd, and have that in mind when you're writing. Obviously, you've got to be happy with your material and not do what I did against innuendo, but you have to always have your own voice. But it is still important knowing the crowd. Like, even within the same country, there's always going to be different crowds. Like our battles, we have a festival crowd, for example, booked at a festival. The rappers need to know that they can't use as many insider battle terms. They can't talk about as many personal things because unlike an actual battle event where everyone's paid just to see battles, at a festival, 90% of the people don't know the people battling. You know, they're just walking by and want to hear a few generic funny bars. So that's just an extreme example of different crowds, you know, wanting to hear different shit. And I think it's really, really good learning experience for English people to come to a different country and spit their shit and realize what pops and what doesn't, and to see, you know, where they get reactions and where not. But I'm kind of happy that innuendo and that Yunnan and Raptor didn't adapt too much, because that was kind of the point of that battle, to show German people the energy of a UK match and you know, the double time flows and all this type of energy that goes into a Raptor performance that they may not have seen from German MCs. I'm kind of happy that he did that, because if he would have completely, you know, changed up his style and done simple one-liners, it wouldn't have been the Raptor that we wanted to book. You know what I mean?
No, of course, and it is a really strong battle, and for anyone that hasn't seen it, it's definitely worth watching. But um, what kind of festivals is it that you guys do over there then?
There's one of the biggest hip hop festivals in Europe. I think the biggest after hip hop camp is called Splash Festival, and that's in Germany. And
Yeah.
we've been booked there for the last 4 or 5 years, maybe. We've always had sometimes one day, sometimes 2 days, where we get a stage and put on some battles.
Right. Okay.
And it was always very, very difficult for that one reason, that a cappella battles are just very difficult to put on at a festival. Not just because of the acoustics, but also because of the crowd not having the same type of discipline as at an actual battle event. You know, it's hard to get a whole festival to be quiet, let alone like the stages, the base of the stage next to ours, you know, kind of overpowering the lyrics and stuff. So a cappella battles were always kind of shit at festivals. At the same time, we didn't want to turn down bookings to big festivals. So that's when we started doing on beat battles. And they really work really, really well at festivals. Because
Sure.
no difference to, you know, performing a track really.
No, exactly. And no, that's cool, man. And I knew I never got to go to Splash Festival, unfortunately, but it's massive, and they booked some huge names as well. So
Yeah.
it's cool to hear that you're doing that too. But what's in terms of your writing process? Like, do you have any kind of inspiration when you're writing in that? Is there someone that you specifically watch to get in the mood, or do you write to a beat, or what's your writing process like?
If it's an a cappella battle, I obviously won't write to a beat. Of course, if it's anything that's meant to go to a beat, I write to a beat. I mean, I do write a lot of music as well. I record a lot of tracks, so that's where I spend most of my time writing. But for a battle, I kind of like the freedom of not having a beat and not having a type of given formula or tempo or structure. You can kind of choose what to do, and you can switch it up at any time. That's what makes it so intriguing. But it also makes it more difficult because, of course, when you're writing 4-minute rounds over several months and you have a good idea and you write it down and you look over that idea again a few weeks later, you completely forget how you wanted to flow it, what structure it was meant to have. Was it meant to be fast or slow? So it takes much, much longer to rehearse. And I get inspired by battles every now and then. But generally, it's more myself. I just try and inspire myself, just because out of the fun aspect, I just enjoy it. And when there's an opponent, that's the inspiration usually. Like, it's quite hard to write or inspire yourself to write bars a cappella when there's no opponent. But as soon as there's someone to focus on, it kind of writes itself.
Sure. No, that makes sense. And the main reason I ask is I'm always interested to hear in different people's processes, because like I remember hearing Thesaurus say, for example, like he'll always watch a B Magic battle when he's about to write a battle, which really surprised me. And like Nestle and I know Scoop from the UK, like they both write to a beat and things like that. There's, it just interests me to see.
I don't get why you write an a cappella battle to the beat. It's weird. It would sound weird as well. I guess Nestle always has a really, really sick flow. Like, I've always really, really rated his a cappella flow. And maybe that's the reason. Maybe because he writes to beat. But I doubt it, man. Like, I don't know. I reckon usually if you spit any lyric you've written to a beat a cappella, it gets a little bit dry after a while, a bit mechanical. Like, the flow's quite predictable, obviously, because it's going to maintain the same flow, at least the same timing. Whereas if you can put in, pauses in an a cappella and switch it up more, that's something you can't really do to a beat. And at least
no, and it's something that I never thought would work either. But then when you listen to Scoop, for example, everything is done in the same flow, but it sounds good. You can kind of tell that he's written it to a beat, but he's also kind of mastered the pausing and when he needs to stop and things like that. But
it's not even just writing to a beat or not. It's even if you're not writing to a beat, you can kind of stay true to that form of writing, that 4x4 structure that you'd have to a beat. And I think that's quite a clean, safe way of writing a cappella. I was watching a Big K battle recently, and he always does that. He always has the same structure, and it always works really, really well. It's always like, set up punchline, with the fourth punchline being the hardest, and then he'll switch the rhyme, and it'll be 4 multis to create 1 punchline. Similar to how you'd kind of, rap over a beat if you're freestyle battling or something. So that same battle structure that always works, because it's the perfect structure. People, it's not hard to follow and stuff. But nowadays, I think there's so many more type of styles you can bring into a battle, and I find it more interesting when you switch the flows, and when there's a bit that might not have this typical 4x4 structure. Maybe every now and then you'll put in a one-liner, then you'll go on a quick double time rant, and then all these different things, which I find quite entertaining in battle rap. And at least that's my style, is to try and be more diverse, mainly because I find it more fun, but it's not necessarily more effective.
No, sure, but and like for yourself, obviously you've promoted a lot of events now. Well, you've been working with your league for a long time, and if what I've been asking a lot of guests is like if they were putting on an event and they had kind of unlimited funds to put the event together, who would they put on the card? But mixing it up for yourself, like, is there a list that you have of like people that you really like to book and bring over to Don't Let the Label You?
There's a few German people that I'd really like to see battle, just like people that are kind of known and who may have a bit of a battle rap background, who then blew up and now feel too big to battle. There's a lot of those candidates in Germany. In terms of English battles, I think every booker or any fan would want to see Luna against Shotty. That's the battle, that battle that never happened. I also recently was thinking about Shotty against Pat Stay. That actually got booked for one of the Swedish leagues. I think it was Base Mentality, and then I don't know if you heard about it. They kind of lost the footage and they only uploaded about half a round or something. So that was a real disappointment. I remember being so excited about that battle. It was just two of the best, in my eyes, definitely 2 of my favorite battle rappers. I think that should get redone.
I agree. I remember, there is some footage available online, isn't there? Like 10 minutes worth of material or something, but it just makes so much sense as like a King of the Dot headliner, but.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
And another battle that really should happen at some point, it's one of those battles where you think, how the hell has that not happened yet, is Sharon against Disaster. Like, have they not battled each other yet? They've battled everyone from every type of league. They've been all over the world. They've battled on URL, on KOTD, on Grind Time in Europe, but they've never battled each other. And I think Sharon's put them out like hundreds of times. For some reason, Disaster doesn't want to do it. I don't know why. If I had endless money, I'd book that.
Yeah, I think it's got to be on the cards for this year, or depending how long this COVID-19 thing lasts, but potentially early next year. But I think they've got to do it at some point sooner rather than later, anyway. Yeah,
and it would make sense on KOTD as well.
Yeah, definitely. But I mean, for Diz especially, it's Solkhan returning is a big deal, but I mean, Sharon does, those MTV shows and stuff, Wild and Out, or I can't remember what it's called now, but like, it just makes sense for Disaster. Like, that battle it's gonna easily surpass 1 million views.
Yeah, easy.
But yeah, and like, you have booked quite a few kind of overseas artists, I guess. Quite a lot of the UK artists have come over to yourself. Is there anyone that you plan to bring over at some point for an event in the near future, or?
Well, obviously in the near future we can't plan anything. All the events are cancelled now because of fucking Corona. But yeah, we would definitely continue to book English people. And honestly, like almost every person I would have considered booking has approached us, like a lot of good names. Basically anyone you name it who's like top tier in England has asked to battle here, and I'd love to book them all, but the problem is that it's financially, it just doesn't make that much sense usually, because obviously it costs quite a bit to get a UK battler over here, even if they don't want that much money for it. Just obviously there's a flight and there's a hotel and all that. And
Sure.
Unfortunately, the German scene doesn't appreciate it that much. There's obviously always quite a few real battle nerd heads here that will watch KOTD and don't flop and Premier battles, but I'd say 80% just focus on German battles. So when you book some English name, no matter how big, even when Disaster was on the lineup, some people said, well, who is this? You know, like why have him on this big lineup when you could get another big German MC? So I think the German scene's just kind of growing, which is good for us, and it wasn't like that back in the day, but it's grown so big that it's really, really hard to justify booking tons of English people. And if we do, it's more out of the fact that I'm a fan and I wanted to have it in the lineup. It's never a financial thing, you know, it never makes sense financially. Disaster, Shuffle T, Marlow, all of those battles didn't make any financial sense. That's not what it's about, obviously, but we have to always look that it's not about making profit always, but it's definitely not about making a loss either. So we have to always make sure, we're safe on that regards. And then if we could use the same money to book a German battle that a lot more people here would buy in pay-per-view, we'll usually go ahead with that instead of the English one. But that's not to say that we're not going to continue booking English battles, but that's just more, if any English people are listening to this, any MCs, like that's the reason it hasn't worked out yet. It's just that it hasn't made sense, not because I wouldn't love to have you over here.
No, I understand, man, and I think with the majority of the people that you have booked so far, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, even if your English is limited, from what you understand of Shuffle and Marlow, you're gonna find them funny. And with Disaster, for example, even if you don't fully understand what he's saying, I know it didn't work with his performance in the end, but you can just kind of feed off his energy kind of thing, and the crowd are going to soak that up. But
yeah,
I appreciate that. And obviously there's a huge amount of talent in Germany as well. So it's not like you're struggling to fill cards either, I guess. But
two of the names who have expressed interest in battling here from the UK, who I really, really rate and who I'd like to see at some point, are Quill and Gemini. Have they actually matched each other yet, Quill and Gemini? I can't remember.
I don't think so, no. Not off the top of my head, no.
That'd be a crazy match as well. Crazy match.
Yeah.
I see that.
Yeah, definitely. I'd
love to get O'Shea over here as well, just because of his legend status. And I think even if people find him hard to understand because of his accent, I reckon you can't not get jokes out of O'Shea. You're gonna laugh and find it entertaining no matter what he does. So I reckon he's a safe bet as well.
Yeah, definitely. O'Shea's the man. But for yourself then, like, what would you say is your kind of 5 bucket list battles in that sense? So like 5 battlers that you would love to go up against yourself.
To go up against myself. Ooh. I'd probably like to go against some American dudes, to be honest. In terms of UK, I think Quill would be quite a good battle actually. I really like the way he writes and stuff. And I reckon sometimes, I don't know, my performance is always kind of based on the opponent, like in the sense that I haven't really ever fixed my style on being only comedy or super aggressive or wordplay wise, but when I have an opponent that's aggressive, I'll be a bit more aggressive. When I have an opponent that's funny, I'll be a bit more funny, you know, kind of always trying to beat them at their own game, sort of, which makes, because I always find it a bit awkward when someone's being super aggressive. I reckon it's a bit weird coming with one-liners and jokes, because it's just hard to judge and it's not really a fair battle. Whereas when someone's super funny, I find it really awkward to be aggressive. I find it just doesn't work, doesn't suit the vibe. So I kind of prefer having opponents that are a little bit more aggressive, just so that I can go into that style as well a little bit without it seeming unfitting. You know what I mean? Obviously, I'm not like the typical street gangster rapper that will always come with an aggressive style. At the same time, I come from like a rap background, and I prefer rapping in a battle rather than just putting out simple jokes that rhyme, you know. But all styles work really well in battles, so it's always you have to always kind of adapt to the opponent a little bit, I find. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I see what you mean. Like if you say you battled like Calcium Kid and you were up in his face and shouting, it'd feel a bit awkward in that sense.
Yeah. Whereas someone like Disaster can do that because that's what you expect from him. You know what I mean? Like, or some people that just always have an aggressive style. It doesn't matter who you put him up against. Let's say Raptor. You can put him up against Shuffle T and he'll still pull through his style, and it won't be awkward or cringe because that's just that's what you know him for. Whereas a lot of people, I don't know, a lot of people will label me as, or say I'm like a funny battle rapper, and others people say, oh, I'm quite a rapper, flow rapper. You know, I haven't really been boxed in a certain style of category yet. Don't let the label you. But yeah.
Yeah. But you and Quill makes a lot of sense. I think it was your battle rap resume episode that I listened to a while ago. Was it Villain was a battle that really interested you at one point? Is that correct?
Yeah, well, Villain, there was meant to be a second Don't Flop co-event. The time when Pedro battled here against Jongo Frey, that event, and I think, Brian Damage had another English battle against Shazam there as well. That was meant to be the second Don't Flop Deal to League co-event. And for some reason, I can't remember what it was, something financially or so. Well, basically 2 matches got cancelled, and one of them was Villain against me, and I think Villain wrote me a message about 2 weeks beforehand saying, he can't make it. And then another match got cancelled, so we only had 2 English battles, so we just said, listen, it makes no sense for the whole Don't Flop crew to fly down here for 2 English battles. We'll just make it a Don't Let the Label ABU event, and that's it. And I was just pissed off because I had like a lot of free time before that battle. It was summer holidays, and I'd written bare for Villain. I was just shortening down my rounds. I had so much material, and then the message came saying that it's cancelled. And I still have so much stuff lying around that wouldn't work for anyone else. So I'd always battle Villain. Good that you reminded me. I kind of forgot about that now, but he's actually top of the list.
Yeah. No, I understand that, and it's a shame that battle never happened, especially around that point. You know, Villain's stock was high then too, so it was. No, that would have been really good to have seen. But apart from those two, then is there anyone else that you specifically like to battle?
Funny enough, I mean, there definitely are, but since the Disaster battle, like, there was probably no one I would have wanted to battle more than him, and then that turned out to just not go the way I wanted to, and then at the moment there's just been so much stress. I haven't really been in battle mode. I haven't really been looking out for opponents, but generally I think I'd be up for anyone who's been around for a while. Anyone who's, been active for a similar time as me, I'd be up for. I'm not so keen on battling completely new faces just because I'm not as involved in watching every battle as I used to be. I mean, I used to watch every fucking battle that came on, and now that we have to, put on so many events and deal with battle rap so much, I don't necessarily spend all my free time watching more battles. So I'll obviously pick up the big names. So, obviously if there's a Pat State battle, I'll watch it straight away, or anyone who I rate. But I'm not completely up to date with all the new ins and outs and insiders and all these new names. So even if someone's kind of popping and kind of popular at the moment, if they're really new, I'm not really interested because I don't know anything about them. But
I appreciate that.
Apart from that, literally anyone, man. I'm not picky at all when it comes to battle opponents.
I like it, and then I do agree in the sense that, if you're going to book a battle in Germany, it makes sense to book people that everyone's going to, well, not everyone, but people are going to be aware of. So I think like a Thesaurus or an Ilmac or someone like that would make a lot of sense for you at the moment. But Nice, man. But that's essentially the end of like the battle rap related questions. But I know you're heavily involved in the music scene as well. Like, what would you say is like the biggest gig that you've ever been booked for? Like, have you ever supported anybody, you know, really big or anything along those lines?
We've had a few. We supported R.A. the Rugged Man recently.
Nice.
That's booked him. What else? Support bands. A few German artists. We were support from Chefcat for a few shows, but you wouldn't know him, but he's quite a big German artist. Played a few festivals and cool shows. We had one big crowd in Morocco actually, in front of like 20, 30,000 people, but that was like a band called Dizzy Denton who worked with a Moroccan hip hop band, and we played one track with them. So that was our biggest crowd, like 30,000 people. But apart from that, it's been lots and lots of just small shows really when we played. And we played mainly out on the streets in Berlin actually. When we first moved here, that's how we made our money. Every Sunday we'd go to Mauer Park, which is this kind of big park and a really active, like, popular flea market. And it's just full of live musicians and tourists and lots of people. And we'd always bring a speaker there and 2 mics and just freestyle there for hours on end. Sometimes have a girlfriend or so who'd walk around selling CDs, and we'd actually make quite a lot of money, man. We'd make more than any job I'd ever done till that point, just by rapping, you know, drinking beer, smoking spliffs and rapping in the sun for 6 hours every Sunday. And then sometimes we'd do it in between the week as well. And that was probably more exposure and better than any show we ever played really, because by doing that, you just constantly have waves and waves and waves of people. And so often since then, I've had people from all over the world, because so many tourists come here as well. Just random people say, "Hey, I remember seeing you play at Mauer Park, or I bought your CD 10 years ago at Mauer Park and stuff." So I can recommend that to anyone who's trying to get themselves out. Also, just trying to like gain more confidence performing live and stuff. To not just rely on little shows in front of 100 people, but to just go out there to popular places and push your music out. And that's what we did. Like, we did that. We went all the way to Morocco by doing that. There's like a film that was shot by Red Bull, which followed us when the album came out. And the trip was like a 39-day trip from Berlin to Morocco, but we did a massive detour over Amsterdam and through Spain and France and all over the place, and all these cool cities, just so we could, you know, perform in them, sell CDs, collect money, and then move on. So the idea was to travel from Berlin to Morocco with no money at all, and just finance the whole way by selling CDs and rapping, and it worked. Like, that's proof that it works. You know, like anyone who has an album out and can perform can do that.
Man, that's incredible. I've not seen that, and I definitely need to watch it. I'm guessing it's available online then.
Yeah, it's like probably like 9 years old now, and it was all on the Red Bull website, but it's down somewhere in their archives now. You can probably find it. It was called 39 Days. I think there's a few odd episodes still on YouTube as well. Some of it's pretty cringe, to be honest, like, but but it was alright. It was a super sick experience for us at the time, and yeah, like it gained, because we were performing and rapping 39 days straight every day on the street in front of strangers in different languages and everything. So it really, really improved my skills as an MC, or just my confidence.
I can imagine. Oh man, that sounds absolutely incredible. I'm definitely gonna hunt that down and watch that straight after. That sounds like so much fun. But like, just in terms of doing that in Berlin, you know, I can imagine it like you said, the contrast of crowds with like all the tourists and stuff as well. It must just be so cool to get feedback from, say, you know, you get a message one day from someone in South America who's got your CD. Like, it must be really cool getting like feedback like that.
Yeah, and it's crazy because you don't really realize it. But if you think back, you think, yeah, so many people, like hundreds and hundreds of people from all over the place, bought a CD off us at one point, and those CDs are spread out throughout the world. Of course, during 39 days as well, during the trip, we were in all these different countries spreading out the CD too. So we originally made 1,000 copies, and we got rid of 1,000 hard copies, and then ordered another 1,000 quite ambitiously. And now we've probably still got boxes and boxes, probably more than half of that still left. But still, we sold 1,000 CDs for full price, which is not full by now, between 5 and 10 euros. But that was nowadays you probably hit the charts if you just officially sold 1,000 CDs in that time. You know what I mean? It's like it's anyone, literally anyone could do it. Of course, when you're younger, we were like 21 at the time, 22. We had the energy to do that shit. I can't really see myself jumping around Europe for 39 days straight, sleeping in the car and in tents and shit, and rapping all day and not having food. I can't really see myself doing that now. But
no, sure.
At the time, man, it was the thing to do.
Yeah, that's such a cool experience, man, I bet. But that's awesome. But like, what would you say is the best gig that you've attended as a fan in terms of who you've seen live?
Oh man, it's so difficult. I've seen so many gigs live over the years that I enjoyed. Just because it's recent, Ari the Rugged Man was always really crazy live. Like very, very first time we saw him. RA actually lives in Berlin, funny enough. That's why we know him, and we've shot a few music videos for him, and we booked him for a show. My dream would be to get him to at some point. Who knows if that'll work out. But the very first time we saw him, I didn't really know much about him. I'd heard like maybe one of his tracks he did with Wu-Tang or whatever. But we were asked by a manager or a tour guide or someone to do an interview with him for our channel. So we checked him out. I didn't really think much of him. And he came on the stage and he was so moody, and he didn't even have a DJ. He was just playing the tracks with his laptop, and the sound quality wasn't very good in the location. Everything looked like it was going to be a disaster, and he was kind of cussing everyone, and it just looked like, oh fuck man, I'm not going to survive this. I'm not going to even watch this. Like I was just about to leave nearly. It just didn't look nice. And as soon as like the second track came on, I think the first track, the sound technician was just still fiddling about. As soon as the second track came on and the sound was decent, he just ripped it. He tore it apart. Like he has such an energy on stage. Just from a pure rap show, I'd say that was probably the most impressive I've seen.
Nice, man.
The Roots live are always good because they always play with live bands. There's a few German artists who are really good live. It's hard to say. And then there's a lot of stuff outside of hip hop that I like listening to too.
Yeah, me too. I'd say hip hop is definitely, my main taste or genre in music, but I listen to all sorts. But I can't believe R.A. the Rugged Man lives in Berlin. I didn't know that. That's crazy. But I did get to see him live too. He's one of the few hip hop gigs that I've been to in Cardiff, because the scene in Cardiff just isn't that big. But he played here, I think, last year, and he was really good.
Yeah.
But I'm guessing you've been massively into hip hop for a long time, so this might be a difficult question to answer, but what would you, if you had to pick your favourite album of all time, what would you say it was?
Oh, that's so difficult. I'm just going to say like a classic, purely because it was one of the first hip hop albums I had from my stepsister. Was the first I really, really rated was Fugees, The Score.
Nice.
I haven't probably heard that album in at least 5 years, so I wouldn't say it's my favourite, but because it was one of the first hip hop albums I rinsed and rinsed and rinsed. It's worth mentioning.
Yeah, no, I like that answer, man. And then for like myself and anybody listening, is there any like lesser known musicians that you're a big fan of that people should check out?
Oh, lots, man. I listen to more lesser known musicians than known ones, really. It seems like kind of known in the UK scene, and I think to me, like the most interesting rapper, and he was actually battled as well as Lee Scott. You know Lee Scott?
Yeah.
He pumps out so much good music, so many good tracks. He's so different and original, and his whole label, Blah Records, is really sick. I can recommend that to anyone.
Definitely.
And more unknown friends of mine who some people might know from one of the Ogmios shows that was uploaded to Don't Flop. They're called Strange Love. One of the 3 rappers, and they're good old friends of mine. One of them actually lives here in Berlin now. They're called Freedom. We featured them a lot on our channel as well. A lot of bars videos. 3 rappers are Chango, Jacoboski, and Freedom. And yeah, there's several uploads on Don't Let the Label Label You. They're super different, but really, really good, man. Like really good music.
Yeah, I really enjoyed their stuff. It's kind of perfect Sunday listening, if that makes sense. I like very chilled out stuff. I enjoy it a lot, but no, Lee Scott too. Like I'm a big fan of Lee Scott stuff and like everything that he's been involved in, like the Piff Gang stage and the Children of the Dam stage and stuff. Like all his stuff's really good.
Yeah, he's crazy acting as well. And even his battles were sick, to be honest. Not the Don't Flop one so much, but not that long ago I stumbled over him versus Soul, I think it was some other league, and yeah, that was sick, man. He actually bodied Soul, man. Not many people...
Really? I've not seen that, I don't think.
Not many people that can say they bodied Soul in a battle.
No. Fuck, I don't think I've seen that. I'm going to have to check that after this as well. Yeah. But
I mean, it's a bit old, it's a bit dated maybe, but considering the time, it was a sick battle.
Nice, man. But yeah, I mean that's almost it at the moment, man. But I've been ending the show with just 3 very random questions, just to end it on a lightest note as possible. But in terms of like holidays and stuff, if you could pick one destination to be your next holiday, where would you go?
Brazil for Carnival.
Nice. Yeah, no, I like that. That's bucket list material right there. But
I've been to Brazil actually for Carnival, and one of my best mates lives out there, and that's why I'm been planning to go back for a long time. So it's definitely my top priority.
Oh, amazing! That's awesome. I was about to ask where your favourite trip has been so far, but would that be Brazil as well?
Yeah, probably. Probably. It's just so amazing, especially during Carnival, man. It's mad. It's madness.
Nice. But what would you say is your favourite sports team?
Well, I'm only follow football. I'm a football fan, and also that's one question that always gets asked if I support England or Germany. And unfortunately, it's always been England. I always support England in the World Cup and Euro and stuff. Hasn't brought me much luck. I'm a Man U supporter when it comes to Premier League. Bit of a weird one. Just as a little kid, I was a Man U supporter. Everyone in my family had a different team to pick. All the London teams were kind of picked already. And I guess, I don't know, I'll be honest, I was probably, when he was such a little kid, I probably liked Giggsy or whatever when he was coming out and stuck to them, and still am a Man U supporter, but most of my family supports West Ham. It's the strongest family team for West Ham, so I've got a little bit of heart for West Ham. Wouldn't want them to get relegated, but when it comes to Premier League titles, it's Man U.
No, fair enough, man. And do you follow much German football at all then?
I did when I first moved here, but the only reason I follow them now is to hope Bayern lose. Like, I used to be a fan of the Bundesliga. Now I'm just a fan of being against Bayern Munich. I think I hate that team. Maybe because I used to live in Munich, and then I was in Munich during the '99 final, Bayern against Man U as well. So there's a lot of rivalry between my friends and me and stuff. But also they're just they're a horrible team. They play brilliant football, but they ruin the whole league. Like Bundesliga, I'd probably watch it if it wasn't for Bayern Munich, but it's just so boring with one team winning it every year. And then when there's another good team that kind of catches up, like Dortmund and Bayern will just buy all their players. Like, Obviously, the Premier League has the same problem, but at least there's like 6 teams fighting for it, and then every now and then a Leicester will still win and stuff, so it's still exciting to watch. Whereas the Bundesliga, I find it's just a bit uneven.
No, I see what you mean. Like when I was living in Germany, I was a big SC Paderborn fan, but they were in the second division at the time, so I kind of followed Dortmund just because they were quite close by. But within the 2 years that I liked Dortmund, I mean, Bayern took Hummels and then a year later took Goetze from them, and it just killed everything off and made it a bit boring.
Two teams here in Berlin. One is obviously BSC Hertha, which is not very likable, big team. They play in the Olympic Stadium. And then there's a really, really likable team called Union Berlin. And they got promoted for the first time last season. I went to their stadium a few times, and I really like it. It's got that English feel to it. It's like a small, compact stadium. Really good fans as well. So yeah, they're if I'll support anyone in Germany, it will be them.
Yeah, I like that, man. And I've actually been to Union Berlin Stadium myself. I went there with SC Paderborn when both teams were in the second division as an away day, so just went there on the coach with the Paderborn fans and then straight back in the same day. But it was a really fun atmosphere, and I find a lot of the lower league clubs in Germany do have the best atmosphere. Like, I don't know how how many stadiums you've been to, but like St. Pauli in Hamburg was probably one of the best experiences I've had at a football match. Like, it's always good fun.
Yeah, the Union games I've seen have been second division. It's been impossible getting tickets now that they've been promoted.
Right.
Well, it's probably not impossible, but I'm not the biggest fan, and I know from a lot of fans it's very hard to get tickets. But yeah, but I haven't seen them in the Bundesliga yet. I rate the second division. I rate the atmosphere in those stadiums and stuff. I like the championship too. I mean, the real football is like when I was in London recently, I went to watch Millwall. Wasn't that recently actually? It was Millwall against Leicester. It was FA Cup, and Millwall. I just happened to go to the stadium because there were tickets available. I went with a mate. In the Den, and Millwall actually knocked out Leicester, who were just champions still.
Right.
And that was sick atmosphere. People were like running on the pitch, ripping out grass and stuff. And that reminded me of what real football atmosphere should be like, man. And everyone was just, everyone was sneaking their beers out. It wasn't that typical corporate feel. People were sitting wherever they wanted to sit. It was that old school real football feeling that I really missed.
Definitely.
You get that in the smaller leagues, don't you?
Exactly. No, I know what you mean. Definitely, it's great fun. And I mean, the final question has split opinions. A lot of people have found it quite difficult to answer. But in your opinion, what is the go-to snack?
Go-to snack. Oof. A lot, man. I'm a munchy dude, right? I smoke a lot of weed, so I'm constantly after snacks. But since I don't live in England anymore, I miss the English snacks a lot. So every time I go out there, I fucking stash up particularly on Monster Munch. Fucking love those. And this is going to definitely split opinions, but I love Twiglets as well. I love Marmite. So I fucking rate Marmite, and it's really hard to get here. So every time I go to England, I stash up on Marmite and Twiglets and Monster.
I mean, I got a bit annoyed the other day when someone mentioned chocolate raisins as their favourite snack, but Marmite is a new low for me. I'm afraid I'm not a fan whatsoever.
Yeah. Well, that always splits opinions, doesn't it?
Yeah. Oh God, even the smell of it just makes me feel ill. But no, nice man. And yeah, there's German snacks that I really miss. To be fair, like I remember, they do a lot of like Jaffa cakes that are like cherry flavour and things like that were amazing. And yeah, I miss Germany a lot sometimes, man.
But we've got some good shit here. We've got some decent snacks here. The grass is always greener on the other side, man. Crisps here are awful, bro. There's no crisps available really. When you get like a shitty wannabe salt and vinegar fat massive pack, and of one kind. And in England, every corner store's got like 50 different types of packs. I don't know why, but for some reason crisps they haven't really popped off in Germany.
No, it's true. And I don't think I'll ever eat paprika crisps again. I'm sick to death of them, but nice, man. But no, mate, I really appreciate you taking the time to come on anyway. But if there is anything that you wanted to plug at all, like, please do let me know within the next few days, and I can, stick the links in the description and things like that. I'll put, a link to the YouTube channel and like your Twitter or Facebook and things like that as well. Do you use Twitter actually?
Not really, no. Don't use Twitter.
No.
I think we have a Twitter for Donate the Label Over You, but we don't really use it. If anything gets posted there, it's only because it's linked up with Facebook or Instagram or something. We use Instagram and Facebook.
Okay, nice. I'll include the links for those then, man. But again, thank you very much for taking the time to come on, man. I really appreciate it, and fingers crossed. Once the whole COVID stage is over, that don't let the Label You continue to put on amazing events, man.
Yeah, thanks a lot, man. And that's the one thing I can say is that we're not going to stop uploading content regularly. We're thinking of different ways of putting shit out there. I don't know what the other leagues are doing, but we're definitely going to put on some COVID battles where people upload will record themselves at home, send them in, and we put on battles like that on beat, a cappella, all different types of shit. Obviously, it's not going to replace the events, but better than nothing. And we're going to keep on. Of course. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on, bro.
No worries. Thank you very much, mate. And you take care anyway, man.